C, penis anxiety, penis uneasiness, pygmy, adjectival usage, pygmy, Republican, Republican, Republican. See also we, W-E-E, the Scottish derivative adjective for small. Okay, now I'm on this S. See if I can find, I got a whole bunch of stuff marked, but I don't have time to. Oh, here's one. Sonnet for a, no, I'm going to, let's see, something that is borrowed. Something that is borrowed. Time. Think about that for a minute. Something that is borrowed. Time. Something that is immortal. The universe. Something that is inevitable. Change. Something that is irrecoverable. Time after it's gone, an hour after it's passed. Often one's friend or spouse, after we've lied to them or otherwise belittled or betrayed them, or they think that we did. Perception is reality. Another S here, sonnet for a safer sea. Subtitle, sonnet for sanity. It's a sonnet. This voyage, because we have to have poetry, this voyage of historic humankind is one whereon we're fated to decide if cold creations of the corporate mind shall specify the way we'll live or die. We cruise now with mere nautical controls, which navigate us up no harbor path. We try to steer through antisocial shoals with sextants when we need a sociograph. We automate our elemental cells, computerized, transistorized, yet blind, and thus meander toward unfathomed hills whence it will prove impossible to find the sort of social innovations we must seek to sail upon a safer sea. In our current global environment, there are a few safe seas, and none off the coast of Somalia, or now for marine life in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's one. Got this one from Jerry Catalina 50 years ago. So what? Quote, so what? Question mark. End of quote. The universe's most elemental and perennial philosophical question. We were in a philosophy class when we figured this out, back around 1955 or thereabouts. This entry comes with the compliments of my old teammate and friend of more than half a century, Jerome J. Catalina, Berkeley, Michigan High School track and football coach emeritus. Take a bow, Jerry. Prepare the book. Okay, let's see. Slow learners. C, educators who haven't figured out yet that the worst way to teach kids is to test them to death. See also Republican. Need to see Republican, also for that particular topic. On the S's. Here's one, schools. Places where, in America, a shallow and instrumental conformism is now being substituted for what instead should be there, namely an encouraged preparedness to think imaginatively and to question boldly and critically. It's frightening to contemplate, at least to me, that only precious few old men and old women, educators, who are dying out at a geometrically accelerative rate, know beyond question of doubt that this definition is true of the great majority of our urban public schools, K-12, as well as some of those in state suburbia. I hate to admit it, because I ran some urban school districts for quite a long time. And, they aren't as good as they think they are. They can always improve. Here's another S, Sarah Palin. I say under this one, C, bad books. Okay. Yeah. Sages for the Ages. That's kind of a long one, so I'm not going to read it. A sacred duty of all educators to critique educational structures and institutions and to offer alternatives within them or to them. Old men recognize that this is a duty which true educators must discharge individually, collectively, and continually in order that we may sustain the ongoing survival of our endangered democratic state. The fact that the institution we call school is regarded in some quarters as an agent of society does does not absolve it from the responsibility to serve as an agent for progressive societal reconstruction. And believe me, I've tried to do it my whole career, and those of you who have followed my career know that I got in a lot of trouble for it in plenty of school districts, but I never quit doing it. The American public school is in the most visceral sense in the of society, but it is far from being an agent of the state. And this is a fundamental difference. It is not democratic, but fascist political theory that would merge the will of society with that of the government and would bestow power to the government to determine what citizens should think and say. In this emergency financial manager situation, and an emergency financial manager, whatever it's managing, a school, a state, a city, a country, you know, look out. Remember the Weimar Republic? Remember what happened in the Weimar Republic? They were a democracy. You know, they democratically elected a man named Adolf Hitler. It definitely must not be the function of the educational leadership in any democratic community to be uncritical supporters of the status quo. Some once cherished practices of the past weren't always good or right. I remember slavery. If we don't fulfill our charge as educators to anticipate and shape a protective and preferred future for our children, we become mere tools of the state, or prostitutes trading our ideas for a dubious security, a precarious status. And I lifted those two paragraphs almost verbatim from the Life on the Run, Seeking and Safeguarding Social Justice. Harmony Park Press, 2010. Google www.alifeontherun.com, and you'll see some of the reviews, including a great review of A Life on the Run that was written by Keith Owens. And he also wrote a great review of this book right here. Thank you, Keith, for those superb reviews. They're both in my website. See Hides in the Weeds, Pseudo-Educator, Public School Segregation, Slavery, Status Quo. I'm on the R's now. Rush Limbaugh. Oh, that's interesting. He condemned me over the air when I was doing some things he didn't like when I was running the school district to the north of us. The quote American, who actually said on the air that he wants your, my, and his president's policies to fail. American in quotation marks, Sichuan schmuck. I've got a couple of good choice, very descriptive Yiddish words to describe him. Righteous, and in the R's, righteous indignation, an emotion your old author experienced at age 7, when his teacher over at Estabrook Elementary School in McGraw, Mrs. McGinnity, grabbed him by the hair and knocked his head against the wall. When I went home and indignantly told my father about it, he asked me like this and grabbed me by the hair, head against the wall. I never complained to him about Mrs. McGinnity. Again, what got here? Rex Reborn, an allegorical poem or poetry. I wrote this poem in 1967. Huger than the heaving ferns, looming higher than the hill. The thunder thing that night returns to seek and find and pounce and kill. Jungle fires in the night flicker into spreading flame to cast their blazing blood-red light upon the hunter's hiding game. Found the tiny quarry flees. Teeth like scimitars gleam wet and drip, descending, pierce, and seize. The killer gulps and rears erect. Body shining slimy red, horrid red is staring on. Tyrannosaurus turns its head to move against the midnight sky. Might once more in fiery glare over a primeval heath, a brute stepped forth to crush and tear and cancel history in its teeth. Now, in the 21st century, battlefields and war zones and suicide bombings and the probability of ultimate nuclear warfare. Humankind has never not used the weapon it invented. And we haven't seen a hydrogen bomb used yet. But I greatly fear that we will. And they also thus remain societally primitive, primordial, and primeval, positing the absolutely certain potential to cancel further human history literally and with grave finality, no pun there, using the word grave. Here's another item. Richard Cheney, a thankfully former Vice President of the United States, also someone to avoid going duck hunting with. See crocodile, Dick Cheney. I've got some other items here. Dick's head, the head of Dick Cheney. A riddle to ponder. Here's another poem. A riddle to ponder. Now know thyself, said Socrates, so tell me, who am I? You're mother to theocracies, autocracies, bureaucracies, and blinding bright technocracies that tame the solar sky. Why, I grant some idiocracies are buried by bureaucracies, but know thyself, said Socrates, so tell me what I do. You harbor old hypocrisies and arid aristocracies. You nurture corporatocracies that toll the end of you. What then of my democracies? The highly moral minds among my wiser children far outrun the rank morass of vacuous class. Next week I'll likely span my seat among the stars. Today I simply plan to speed some suns to Mars. I wish they would quit their quibbling and come and sit the sibling shows being rerun a thousandth time on late TV. The backward gun, and now declining back to the tree. Yes, and see, suddenly the crime of Cain begins again as forward runs the reel. The cries of pain resound in vain. Too far away to feel, one errant offspring conjures up a mighty mushroom tree. Sun 2 cuts down the buttercups. Sun 3 ignites the sea. Thus each misguided brother annihilates his other. So, after you've taken some time now to ponder this riddle and come up with the answer to it, tell me, who am I? Who are you? Who and what are we? Embedded within the answer to the riddle is the beginning of that vital and peculiar wisdom which is most crucial to the survival of our species and perhaps to the longer-term survival of practically all life on our planet itself. Let us pray that as a sentient species we collectively discover that answer in time. See, apocalypse, time. And I'm still on the R's and running out of time. Okay, resource-driven and technology-driven economic system. The ultimate evolution of the most advanced form of true socialism in which every world citizen participates and to which each contributes a service accordant with his aptitudes and skills. This could be the ideal worldwide economic system of the future wherein, quote, filthy lucre money would become obsolete and valueless, and cooperation in the sharing and pooling of resources, goods, and artistic and technological talents and services. You know, I was going to bring my violin and play a tune too, and I forgot it's out in the car. Would abound universally amid the permanent banishment of war, which even in our present time has become at least semi-obsolete. The love of and dependence upon money is indeed the biblical root of all evil. It engenders gross and egregious inequities among men. For example, in our present unfair economic system, Africa can produce goods, but farmers in Europe and in the United States are paid subsidies that enable them to sell similar goods at giveaway prices, even when you got a flood, like what's happening right now in the Mississippi, wreaking insufferable havoc upon African countries' economies and upon other poorer countries' economies throughout the world. In a resource-driven and technology-driven economic system, there would be no World Bank, and indeed no money, nor would anyone need any. All we would need are each other. And I say here, see utopia. You know, it's actually true. You know, the solution is so easy. But, you know, you've got these corporate moguls, you know, who are, you know, making, you know, 40% of the wealth. A Republican, our pertaining to the Republican Party. Toward the end of it, I said, see dork it, and when I go to dork it, I said, see Republican. You know, it kind of bounces back there. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of long. And I'll leave it to the Republicans to read it. Racist. What your old author publicly called the Rochester, Michigan residents in the 1980s who protested my hiring black principals during my 7 years there as the deputy school superintendent. That got very heavily publicized. Quote, racist is also what your old author publicly called the Madison Heights, Michigan residents in 2009 who protested my bringing hundreds of Detroit students to the Madison District Public Schools when I was the superintendent there, and what I call the officials of the Detroit Athletic Club in 1958 when they wanted to sponsor me because I was a world second-ranked quarter miler at the time. They wanted to sponsor me, but wouldn't let me bring my 3 black relay teammates from the Detroit Track Club along with me. It looks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it talks like a duck. Pretty hard, I'm sure you got it. Incidentally, when that team later broke the world record for the 880-yard relay, the Detroit Track Club broke the world record for the 880-yard relay. I had some really fast teammates on that team. Remember those guys? That was Billy Smith, world record holder, 65-yard low hurdles. Pete Petros, who later became principal of Mumford High School. It was running 100 yards in 9.6 when he was 35 years old. Yeah, and Jim Bibbs, who was the first guy to tie Jesse Owens' world record for 60 yards. Those are the other guy. Incidentally, the DAC still stuck by his racist decision. They could have had a world record relay team, it wouldn't take us, because 3/4 of us were black. That was 1958. Here's a Q, P, moving kind of faster here now, because I want to give folks a chance to do their poetry. That's good poets in the room. Okay, making fun of the Republican penises again, I'll skip that. Okay, peace. Peace. Historically, a mere brief interview between wars. Peace is something as fleeting as the will of the wisp, as elusive as a butterfly. Mankind is genetically, generically, and fatally programmed for war, not peace. I am too. My father was a warrior, he was a boxer, and he taught me to be a fighter. I think we have to fight for peace. We have to fight for justice. Let's stop fighting each other. And peace with peace with justice is a condition that is even scarcer than peace alone, or justice alone. And while peace with justice is elusive, it is not elusive. And there is a difference. It's the only true kind of peace on this earth that there can or will ever be for humankind. Without justice, and Ed Rowe has said this many times, I ran this peace for youth programs for him for a couple of years down at Central United Methodist Church, and he always said that without justice, there can never be real, lasting peace of any kind. I'm just going to get a couple more of these, and then I'm going to spare my voice, and maybe I'll be one of the reading poets. I might read too. Oldster, a quote senior citizen. A note to Republicans: this word is not to be confused with roadster or holster. Let's see what else we got here. The old man's best teachers, his mistakes. The old man's first axiom: what will ultimately kill you is not what you're eating, but what's eating you. This is true at any age, but particularly among us oldsters. Our aging nervous systems are more physically vulnerable to emotional stress. I can give you a very personal testimony on that, because I'm going through my second divorce, and it's not a lot of fun. Luckily, I found a wonderful lady, who has helped me immeasurably. The old man's second axiom: don't drink and drive. Have you ever tried to turn a cargo hold into a martini? Actually, some blind old geezer shouldn't be driving along. The old man's greatest accomplishment: survival. The old man's greatest fear: to become irrelevant. The old man's greatest masterpiece: his next one. The old crusader's credo. I got this from a young friend, protege of mine named Yusuf Shakur. Remember that name, he's going to be mayor someday, I hope. If I engage in the crusade, follow me. If I hesitate in the crusade, this comes from his book, by the way, The Window to My Soul, Memoirs of My Young Crusading Comrade, Yusuf Shakur. If I engage in the crusade, follow me. If I hesitate in the crusade, push me. If I should err in the crusade, correct me. If I should falter in the crusade, uplift me. If I am unaware in the crusade, inform me. If I should betray the crusade, kill me. If I should hunger in the crusade, feed me. If I need aid in the crusade, assist me. if I should die in the crusade, remember me. Nepotism. See Detroit Public Schools. Murderous missiles, and I'm going to stop at 7:30 because I want to give them a half hour. Murderous missiles named for ancient Greek gods. If a Christian nation is going to build bombs decided to decimate other nations, it shouldn't name these horrific weapons after some ancient people's deities, but rather after its own predominant deity, right? Yeah. At least the 13th century Crusaders who invaded the Holy Land, wearing their crosses over their chainmail, ironic, quote, tribute to the Prince of Peace, weren't as hypocritical about it. You know, we call our missiles, you know, Nike, you know, Thor. As the savagely sardonic 1961 poem, JCICBM went, the ancient heathen Norsemen did in fashion, with steel and Satan's godless blistered hands, such hatred heated forces of destruction as these we've made in modern Christian lands. Don't name new high-priced Messerschmitts for Odin, nor $1,000,000 missiles after Thor. A plane will be Christ-blessed as it's unloaded. If Jesus' name adorns his body, 10, 9, 8, Jesus Christ, ballistics missile, 3, 2, 1, boom. See A-bomb, abomination, hydrogen bomb, JCICBM. Moral maggotry, I don't define that. That's a multifaceted term that I define. You can read it in here. Miseducated, M, so many M's. What way too many of our young folks are, morally and spiritually. Our schools are relentlessly teaching a belief in the predominant importance of personal success, individual achievement, the competitive race for recognition, the inequitable distribution of human wealth, that only things that, quote, can be counted count, and that's not me saying that, you know, I'm quoting others, and that education's true function is as a vehicle to sort and select winners and losers. Our children don't need to be trained to be losers. Our children need and deserve an education that awakens them to a life of greater purpose and meaning than the one most American schools currently offer, and I am including some of the best, quote-unquote, suburban districts in this accusation. And I could deliver an entire lecture on that alone. The 5 miscreants, still in the M's, the 5 miscreant members of the United States Supreme Court voted in 2010 to permit corporations to have equal status with individual U.S. citizens. Definition, traitors. MF, metal fire, well, I won't do that one either, because it's got some other connotations there. Okay, let's see what we can do with this. Lunacy, here's a definition. Lover, here's a real good definition. Love. Something the ancient Roman aged sage Publilius Syrus claimed that we can't do and be wise at the same time. Amen to Publilius Syrus. Loved ones, people who don't necessarily love you back. Lover, someone to whom one must never give a written, intimate testimonial or take nude photos with, or make any kind of posing and explicit videotape with. This is especially so for anyone who someday intends to enter politics, education, the ministry, or the Miss America pageant. Excepting for Vanessa Williams, you know, she capitalized on it and made a lot of money. Lunacy, see racism, or lunatic, anyone making less than $300,000 per annum who votes Republican. This definition obtains particularly in presidential elections and for candidates for other national office. Literature. Speech immortalized. Speech immortalized. Example, the timeless tone you are reading, or in this case, listening to, at this precise moment in time and space. What old men know, spoke, is something you may well read completely and then return to and read again and still again, and then eventually reread it from yet a deeper perspective long after its old author is dead. Someday, your children and grandchildren may read it too, and marvel at the deep wisdom and the depthless folly that we, their multifaceted progenitors, manifested. leadership. The art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it. And that's what a real leader can do, can motivate. Legacy, an inheritance for all posterity. The legacy of all aged sages, and indeed of all human beings, should be to have work to make the world worthy of its children. And that's not original with me, but I put it in here anyway. Kilts and targets, you don't have to do that because of Scott. Joke 6, I got a whole bunch of jokes in here. How did the nation know that New York's ex-governor Eliot Spitzer is a Democrat? Got caught with a woman. Related joke. I got John Boehner in here too, but I'm not going to read him. A jester, a playing card. Also, someone who utters a risky truth, often but not always with impunity. The late Lenny Bruce, the late Richard Pryor, the late George Carlin, and the very much alive Bill Maher are prime examples. Republicans. If I had any Republicans in the House, I would say to them, Republicans, for your information, impunity means exemption from punishment. Let me use impunity in a sample sentence for you. Bush and Cheney shouldn't have been granted impunity for their treasonous war crimes. They're all authors, and always going to be so helpful defining words we should already be familiar with. Often I'm simply going to say, Republicans, check your Websters. Okay, I only have a very few minutes left. And I'm only on the eyes. Inflation. The immediately impending American and world currency crash that common folk are anticipating, and only gold-hoarding multimillionaires are even semi-prepared to cope with. For the only practicable, but admittedly psychogenetically improbable solution, see resource-driven and technology-driven economic system, which I already shared with you. Incompetence, a characteristic far too likely, and unfortunately to get one promoted in an academic or governmental bureaucracy. Sad to say, sometimes bad to be good, and it's good to be bad. See bureaucrat, ignorance, boy, I gotta read you bureaucrat. I got some good definitions here. Incorporated States of America, see corporatocracy. Ineffectual, see impotence, Republican. Infinity, there's so many things I'd love to share with you guys, and I want to give those poets a chance to read. Hunters, folks who should be required to wear antlers and buckskin. Fair's fair. Let's see, humility. With old King Canute, learn, couldn't make the waves go back. Horizon, where the road rises to merge with the sky. Just before that ultimate rise in the road, old men, metaphorically or metaphysically, become the road itself, and that distant dip beyond the hill, where reality becomes illusion, and illusion becomes real. In that magical place, one consciousness flows into another and another and another. The real then melds with the unreal. But what once was real and the not yet real. It is there that a septuagenarian sage can win a world light heavyweight championship and an Olympic sprint race and write a best-selling book that will save the world for its children. It is also there that he may forever